introduction. So everybody, let's take a look at what I consider to be one of the best budget hi-fi systems you can buy. Features. Sound quality. Well, with that, it's pretty straightforward. The bass is exactly what you'd expect from an NAD amplifier. It's very powerful. It's very kind of in your face, prodigious. It very kind of gets out there. It's very attacking bass. Very, very great quality. One criticism I've always had of NAD amplifiers, and particularly the C316, which I've had before, has always been the bass and the mid-range have always kind of come across kind of monotone, sort of like one note. Now, pairing it with the LX2 Mark IIs really elevates that and really kind of opens that up and really allows the bass, and more in particular the mid-range, to be truly expressive, truly multi-tonal. And you really get kind of all those, when you know, the guitar and vocals, and you get all those sort of inflections and nuances of the mid-range and the bass as well, and really kind of allows it to sort of display that. One interesting characteristic of the LX2 Mark IIs as a companion to the C316 is you get this kind of cleanliness to the bass. In my opinion, the bass of the 316 has always been sort of brash, kind of in your face, as I've said. But with the LX2 Mark IIs, it really kind of cleans it up and really kind of elevates the bass in terms of its sort of refinement, that type of thing. Makes it better, much better. Now, as I said, the mid-range definitely kind of cleans up the mid-range as well. But like I said, my only criticism I've ever had of the C316 has really come to that kind of monotone quality to the mid-range. As I mentioned, the LX2s, they really kind of liven that up, really allow all those characteristics of the mid-range to kind of come through, those textures and tones, and makes it just a lot better, phenomenally better, in fact. The highs, I don't really have nothing to report about the highs. I know that kind of sounds a little funny, but it's exactly what you'd expect. Now, overall, the system is a sort of a warm sounding system, but by and large, the highs are present, they're there, they're airy, they're sparkly, they're exactly what you want, but they're not in your face. One of the neat characteristics of the LX2 Mark IIs is I've often found with NAD amplifiers, regardless of which one they are, they're very rhythmically, dynamically expressive, but they kind of can come across sort of ponderous in a way. I know that sounds like a contradiction in terms, but it's not. The LX2s, they really allow that expressiveness, that dynamics to really kind of come to the fore, and in a very positive way. And you feel like if you put on something fast and sort of like dance music, you feel like you want to get up and dance. You feel like you're tapping your feet to the music. You don't feel like you're sitting there thinking about, you know, chin stroking what you're listening to. You feel like you're really kind of enjoying emotionally the music. And the LX2s really bring out the best of the 316, and it's a phenomenal pairing. It's really a phenomenal pairing. John Darko was right. It's truly tremendous. Now let's move on to sort of a kind of talk about the CD player and the phono stage. So, you know, when I got this system, I kind of had this impression that the CD player was going to be kind of the standout feature, having a CD player and that kind of thing. And the CD player is great. It sounds great. It's literally the best I've ever heard CD sound. I know that sounds kind of cliche and, oh, it's never sounded better. But in this case, it's true. You know, in my opinion, it has never sounded better. These CDs have, I mean, through the C538, it's really a great surprise. Soundstage is great. Separation of instruments, its tone and textures of the music. And it's also kind of cliche, but oh, it sounds analog, but it kind of does. You know, it sounds really good, and it almost kind of has an analog quality to it when you're listening to CDs. But really the surprise feature for me, the standout out of the whole system, has to be, well, two things. Number one, the speakers. Number two, the phono stage. And truly, I wasn't expecting much of the phono stage. You know, I've heard a lot of budget integrateds, and I've heard their phono stages. I've heard the AS301, Denon PMA 600E, the Marantz, the 5005, which they no longer make, Cambridge AXA35. I've heard them all, and I've heard the phono stages too. And truth be said, this has to be the finest phono stage out of all of them. It's just really dynamic, it's expressive, it really comes through in the fore in terms of character of the music you're listening to. If you put on something slow, it doesn't homogenize the sound. I mean, it's just a phenomenal phono stage. And I would go so far as to say it's not only the best budget phono stage built into an integrated that I've heard, but it's probably, if you were building just a hi-fi system, you know, just for vinyl, and you have just a budget option, this is your best bet, 100%. But also, like I said, the speakers too were a huge finding for me. You know, I've always heard of Mission, and I've heard some of their 90s designs. What was it? Not the 770, but anyway, and I always thought they were great sounding. They had great tone, they had great speed and clarity, but they also kind of had this leanness to them in terms of bass and body. And this sort of eliminates all of that. It basically retains all the positives of the older 90s designs of Mission, but does away with the kind of drawbacks and, you know, negatives to the 90s design. So it's really a perfect all-in-one. And truthfully, if you said, hey, you need to get rid of the whole system but only keep one item, it would be these speakers, 100%. I don't think they would pair very well with very bright sounding gear. But, you know, that's kind of horses for courses. And I guess some people might like that kind of sound. These paired with the NAD being kind of a warmer, kind of mid-range type of sound, it works phenomenal. But yeah, final thoughts. All right, everybody, that is it. I appreciate your watching. Share your thoughts down below. I like my videos to be a discussion, a sort of a democratic process. You know, I notice a lot of people watch my videos and they don't really comment, and I don't know why. Or they'll comment and, you know, but I'd like this to be a discussion. I personally like interacting with my audience. So if you guys have something you want to say to me, or you want to discuss, hey, you know what, actually, I don't think you're right. I think this item is better, or, you know, you're wrong about that. Talk to me. Let's talk about it. Let's do it. But anyway, stay tuned for future videos, and